Okay, right. So, if you remember, I told you last night that the various assignments that I gave you, I was going to check that you've done them. The first of the assignments, you remember, you were supposed to be recording the miracles that happened in your life. The second, you were supposed to be looking to see your changes, what changes you had made in your life as a consequence of COVID. Then we talked about another assignment was to look at all the times when you thought you were financially maybe struggling, and it all worked out. Because remember, the whole basis of our share, the whole basis of the Torah, according to the Ramban, is it's not blind faith. It's based firmly on experience and our clear aidus that Hashem is there in our life. We're not into blind faith. Fine. So I'm going to give us another assignment. I'm going to start the assignment. I want you to think about this. And this is the big one, I suppose. And that's the one about when you've seen illness, either HaShem in your own life or somebody else's life. And you've seen the Yad Hashem in that as well. Okay, so that's the next miracle, the next issue that we're going to be talking about. So let me do that again. We've already dealt with the miracles that have happened to you in your life that point to the big miracle of Mitzrayim as evidence that Hashem is there. And then we talked about what changes, or we asked what changes your second assignment you made as a consequence of this very strange, horrible Magefa that's going around the world. Number 3 was when you've seen yourself financially struggling. But now what we're going to be doing tonight, leading into it, you'll see how this is going to work in a second, and certainly tomorrow night. And, I think we can broaden this because I asked you to make notes, and there was one of you who sent me experiences of miracles in your own life. I would be very grateful for these. I'd like to share them beyond just our little small group of how many people join us, well, sometimes 20, 30, whatever it is, and then how many people see it when I put it on later on my YouTube channel, which gets up to hundreds and hundreds. I'd like to be able to extract from our share that can maybe help thousands and put it in my columns in Hamadiyah. So that's quite seriously another. So fourth assignment, and that is I want a little aid memoir of Hashem in our lives from the time that we've experienced, or people who've experienced, or close to have experienced illness, and when we saw Hashem's hand there. Okay, and I think when I say we see Hashem's there, it's very, very often when it's a case of illness that you see either in your own life, that really you do see Hashem there. And of course, that's what we call a miracle. And the reason is because, well, there's a reason why you're going to see, the Ramban says the little miracles point to the big miracles. Very often when this person is going through a health crisis, very often there's millions of stories of the doctors despairing, and then suddenly, boom, and you really do see the Yad Hashem. The reason why that happens, I was just preparing for my women's fad, that happens on a Thursday morning, and I was looking at the Al-Shak HaKodesh, as I always do. The Al-Shak HaKodesh famously, he's talking, I'm doing Leah this week, and he says, why is it that Leah managed, when everything was pointing that she was going to end up married to Esau, why was it that everything changed? And he said that she is the exemplar of somebody who, with the whole world and everything stacked against her, through her tears, that's the Eni Leah Rachos, can change everything, including the Gazardin and Shemayim. Well, certainly I think we all know, I think we all are well aware that when we're likely to shed the most sincere, the most tears, and often the most sincere prayers, is when somebody we love, or God forbid, we ourselves, our health is in trouble. And that's when we really pray. And that's when, therefore, you can expect to see change in the Yad Hashem. It's a cause and effect. When you really, the gates of prayer since Korban Bayis, says the Medrash, have been slammed, closed, and locked. But the gate of tears, they're always open. Tears get through. So when, and we'll get onto this tomorrow night, when we deal in stories about people recovering or surprising medical science, and that's something very current to bear in mind because the COVID virus. Can I just remind everybody that the figures are that 97% of people who get this disease get better from this disease? Just let's remember one of our earlier share about not panicking, which can be more detrimental to your health than the disease itself. However, I would like to zip through and I do mean that, Bitachon chapter 2, based on last night. We just did that tiny little paragraph of just chapter 1, which left, as I told you originally, when I was writing the book, me scratching my head. And it was only doing this series that occurred to me why it was so important. It's a question of not eches but kamas, even though effectively it's only one paragraph. But because of what the paragraph said, those you can review that last night, that was so enormous that that's all it needs, just that and no more. But let's look at chapter 2 in its own right. And I also thought what I wanted to do, and this is not me trying to sell you the book, of course, but what I'd like to do is just to read it in English, simply because if I read it in Hebrew and then translate, saying we're only meant to be here for 15 minutes, which I noticed that every night I've managed to somehow get to 20. But basically, if we read it in English, just the translation, my translation, will get through the whole thing a lot quicker. Okay, so I'm doing Rufo Salev. This is the old edition. As you know, there's a second edition, and a friend of mine wants me to bring out a third edition, where the Hebrew has got to Nikodot, and I contacted somebody just this afternoon, my editor in Yerushalayim, to find out how much that would cost. Anyway, so in chapter 2, and chapter 2 is not very long either, but the ideas here are very important. There are 7 reasons that would lead a person to trust any other person. The first is that you know that other person possesses the traits of mercy, compassion, and love. You can't trust somebody if they're not a nice person. Oh, I'm desperate, and the guy was, who cares? Get lost and all that stuff. No, obviously you can only invest your trust in somebody who's going to say, wow, oh, that's terrible. If you know that he has those feelings about you, that engenders trust. And you know that you can depend on him to help you because he's that sort of person. So that's, again, he says that there's 7 altogether. Number 2, the second is that you are certain that due to his affection for you, he will not forget about you, nor become diverted from your plight. You are confident that he will exert himself to help you solve your difficulties. Now that's also very important. There's a phrase, very busy. If you want to get something done, ask a busy man. That's an interesting insight. Because busy men are usually doers, but often they are diverted doers because everybody's knocking at their door. So you would have to find somebody who is innately a kind person, but he would also have to have that focused on you. And maybe he's got a million other people he's trying to help. They would have to focus on you as well, and that he will exert himself to help you out of this. If you're even, my translation said, if you're even a little doubtful about this point, then you'll not be able to trust him fully. Maybe he's got too much on his plate. You're a mere pea at the side, beside all the other peas and the carrots. Anyway, as you will feel that he will become diverted and focus on other matters. However, if you're certain that neither concern applies, that he possesses compassion, and it will remain focused on your situation, then you can be more confident that the person is worthy of trust. The third factor that will gain your trust is that the person is powerful enough that nothing and no one is able to oppose him when he is determined to make something happen. Now, if that's not clear to you, perhaps because the person lacks sufficient clout, or maybe his wife will just say, no, we're not doing it. She's a very powerful player. Or maybe his business partner will say, no, you can't do that with the money that you want to divert to help somebody set up a business. Then you're in trouble. Then you cannot feel confident in their efforts. He may be filled with concern for you and wish to help you, but if he lacks the resources or ability to turn the sympathy into a solution, gosh, that was well written, trust is impossible. If, though, he possesses power and no mishaps or accidents ever befall him, and he's effectively invincible, he's called Clark Kent, then along with compassion and focus, you will be encouraged to depend on him. But all that makes sense, actually, no? The fourth essential element needed to gain your trust is that the person acting for you actually knows what will reproduce the solution you require. That's important. Well, that's a very important point. He is completely aware of everything that will benefit you. There are so many well-meaning people who make an absolute mess of things because they're well-meaning, but they're not well-thinking. They don't think things through. And I suppose that applies to me as well and everybody. We all make mistakes in this respect. But it's not enough to have everything we said before and be well-meaning and have the resources and nobody stand in your way if whatever way you are going to take the person's problems is going to make more problems for him. So he's got to be completely aware of everything that will benefit you. This is to be more than a superficial understanding of your needs. It has to be a thorough comprehension of everything that could be good for you. I knew in England an extraordinarily eccentric, very well-meaning multi-gazillionaire. He didn't like me, but he wanted to raise funds of his many wonderful philanthropic enterprises. He wanted to raise funds for a Holocaust thing, whatever it was supporting survivors, I can't remember. And he had the brilliant idea that it wouldn't be great that people came along to a great gala dinner in which the meal was the same as the concentration camp victims ate in Auschwitz. Brilliant, because surely that will make them empathize with the cause. Somebody had to point out to them that nobody's going to come out for that. Wait, that was a great idea, and he certainly wants to help, but you've got to make sure that what you want to help, how you want to help, is actually going to work.
How much did he charge for that dinner?
Sorry?
How much did he charge for that dinner?
Oh,
250 per couple, or?
I don't know how much he charged. No, I think his PA at the time, who was a friend of mine, and now works for Mr. Bloomberg, told me that he managed to talk him out a bit. But it's illustrative that a well-minded, what's the word? Well-meaning person can make some remarkable mistakes. So this has to be more than a superficial understanding of your needs. So the person would be helping you, all the things I said before, but he has to understand what your needs really are. And there has to be a thorough comprehension of everything that could be good for you. Unless your benefactor possesses that level of knowledge, then once more your trust in him will be shaken. If someone has all those attributes, now he sums up. So and we're up to number 4, if he understands completely that what would be good for you and has the ability to bring about your desired result, he's 100% committed to ensuring that you will lack for nothing that you require, and he has a concern for you, then your trust in your friend would be even stronger. Yes, of course it would. I think incidentally at this stage, if I was to try and think of all the people I know that would check all those boxes, I'm not so sure it's a large group. There's a 5th factor that would certainly secure your confidence and trust. That is that the person acting for you is the person who guides you from birth through childhood, adolescence, manhood, and even on through old age to your last days. Do you remember the old days when you had a family doctor who looked after you when you were a baby and all the way through your life, and maybe looked after your mother, your father as well? We don't seem to have those anymore. But they know absolutely everything about you, and he now knows that thing that you're dealing with, it must be shingles. No, it can't be shingles because he had chicken pox when he was 7, because I remember. And there were doctors who did that stuff and remembered that stuff. But imagine you could have somebody who was there involved in every single aspect of your life, all the way through, and had manifested all the previous conditions, was looked after you, was focused on you, knew what was best for you. That would be that. Now we're talking. Okay. Such a track record of dependability and altruism permeating every stage of your life would give you confidence in the now as well as in the future. The 6th requirement that would gain your trust is that you completely rely on the person who is helping you. This means that no one else is able to sabotage the relationship, either maliciously or accidentally, through his own attempts to intervene and help you. In the bottom of the book's not just a translation, it's a commentary as well. I've got a little note here, and I saw this with 2 extraordinarily well-meaning people who were helping a certain woman. There were 2 ladies, and both of them were Talmidas of mine. Once upon a time, was helping, taught them. And there was a certain lady, obviously not going to go into details, and they were helping her, and they wanted to help her, and they were really helping type people, but their approach was totally contradictory. And I say all the time in other sharing, one of the things I only really teach are 2 things, and one of them is Asa l'cha Rav. Notice that Asa l'cha Rav is in the singular. Get for yourself a rabbi. Because if you go and ask a question to 2 or 3 rabbis, might be all grades, I guarantee you'll get 3 contradictory or varying pieces of advice, leaving you utterly confused. And they might all be right, but certainly not all going to be right simultaneously. So basically, that's exactly what happened in this situation. And one of them had to back out. In actual fact, I was involved in the case because they were all sort of like bouncing it off me. And it was obvious to me that the person who backed out, her approach was the better approach. It was still better, actually, for somebody, even the better approach, to back out at least the person had a way to go. But it could be that the person tries to help you. Suppose somebody else wants to get in on the act or can get in on the act, then that would be problematic, to put it mildly. So again, the sixth requirement that would gain your trust is that you completely rely on the person who's helping you. This means that no one else is able to sabotage the relationship, either maliciously, certainly maliciously, or accidentally through his own attempts to intervene to help you. This would be analogous to a law officer. Do we say analogous in America or analogous? What do we Americans say, analogous or analogous?
I believe the latter.
Sorry?
I believe the latter.
A ladder, analogous. Analogous. Wife? Analogous, huh? I believed you, but I just thought I'd better check. Okay. Good. This would be analogous to a law officer who puts someone in protective custody. While he is in isolation, no one can reach the person to hurt him, nor can anyone attempt to offer him help. The only relationship that matters and affects his life would be the one with that particular guy in the FBI, as long as you're not a Republican. If you have a guarantee of that kind of exclusive and protective relationship with your benefactor, your ability to trust him is strengthened even more. And he comes to the last one. The seventh and last element that you require for total trust is that you're certain that the person you trust is innately an altruistic and philanthropic person. Giving is in his very being, and it extends to those who do not deserve his kindness. That's, remember what we said in chapter 1. So he's echoing now what he said in chapter 1, that it's essential for you to know that even if you don't deserve it, this person will still help you. Otherwise, how could you trust him? Because you might do something that will blow it for you. But if you know he's going to help you even when he's going to blow it for you, and when you blow it for yourself, rather, then that would give you the confidence. Giving is in his very being, and it extends to those who do not deserve his kindness. Your benefactor's giving is constant, and his kindness is unfailing. Now, we've done 7. If someone manifests perfectly all the attributes we've just mentioned, you would be truly justified in trusting him to help you. And I mean, you don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner to work out what's coming next. There is no such person. There could be no such person. Just the one that nobody can intervene, or he can do anything that you need. That already takes us to the beyond the normal. And towards the end, he writes the following thing: when all 7 are clear to you that it only applies to HaShem, and you recognize that the absolute kindness of HaShem, it follows you will trust him and accept his control of your life. You will not question his judgment, nor become angry at him when he sends you to deal with what he sends you to deal in life. Because he really is there for you. And as we said in one of our previous Jim, he loves you more than your mother, he loves you more than your father, and he's doing everything, he can do everything. So why he's not doing it quite your way? Well, maybe your estimation of how things should work is off, not his. Okay, and that's the whole of chapter 2 in Bitachon, in my translation of Fuseli. So we're up to chapter 3. Okay, so that would be wonderful to have all of those things. Somebody can control all of those elements of our life. And as I said at the beginning of our little share, that you see most clearly when HaShem, as it were, lets the mask slip or lets his hand be too evident. You see it most closely when somebody's sick and gets better. That's very, very crucial when it comes to the COVID-19 thing. As I said, remember, the vast majority of people, vast majority, are going to get better. There's a Gemara, and the Gemara is in Brochus and the Staff Yud, and it famously tells the story of a famous king and a famous prophet. And this is what the Gemara says, if I can find the place. Oh, I've managed to turn to page Minvav. No, try Yud. Okay. The Gemara says, "B'yama mahim," in those days, Chol Chizkiyahu, the king Chizkiyahu, who was very sick, L'mamash, was so sick that he was going to die, and the doctors despaired, or rather, started measuring him for the casket. V'yovei lo Yeshayahu ben Omach, and along came the prophet Yeshayahu with a message, Hanovi. V'yomar elav, he said, "Koyamar Hashem tzavos," and Hashem and Rabban Shalom, the Rabban Shalom has sent me a message for you. Yes. Tzav lebesecha, write your will, ki mesata v'lo tichya, because you're going to die and you're not going to live. My ki mesata lo tichya. This is, I'm not going to. I mean, it's a strange thing. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're not going to live. Sorry, can you die and live? What does that mean? Mesata ba'olam hazeh Well, that's oh, what does it mean? You're going to die in this world, and you're not going to live in the world to come. That's what I mean. Amalei, my kuli high. What did I do that was so bad that I deserved both death in both worlds? Amalei mishum the Lord, ask him a prayer of you. You never get married in order not to have children. You don't want to have any children. Amalei mishum the chazai li beruach hakodesh, because I saw, said the king Chizkiyahu, I saw with my ruach hakodesh. So you ruach hakodesh. That's incredibly high level. The nafik minai bonim de lo amalia, because I was going to have children who would be really bad. To which the Prophet turns around and says, the calculations, what Hashem wants to happen, that's his business. What's it got to do with you? So he said something like this. I tell you what then, give me your daughter, he said to the Prophet, and I'll marry her. And maybe in the schools of she and I and this new thing, the Gazardim will be called up. To which the Navi turned around and said to him, what are you talking about? You're finished. And the king turned around and said, listen here, Navi. I have a Kabbalah in the Torah that all the way back to my grandfathers, that even if your head is on the execution block with a guy standing there with the sword or the axe over you, you should never give up. And of course, he married her, and fine, he did have rotten children, but one of them was Menashe Melch Yisrael. Eventually became a Baal Tshuva. Here's a man on his sick bed, on his deathbed, with a Navi telling him, you're finished, and the doctors have already measured the casket. You're never finished. When you see Hashem's greatest nisim, unless it's an open miracle, is when all the doctors have despaired and shake their heads. And I've got thousands, I can tell you 1,000 stories, I'm going to tell you 2 stories. Well, let me just tell you one story. And this is not an illness story, but it shows you a level of Bitachon. When I lived in Manchester, knew somebody called Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Weiss. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Weiss was in Auschwitz as a 17-year-old boy. He was a big Talmud Chacham, a great fan of the Alshich, a wonderful man, Satmar Chosed. He was in Auschwitz as a 17-year-old. And it wasn't, he was off the train and straight to the gas chambers. No, he was interned there. They knew exactly what was going on. One day, his barracks was marched down to the gas chambers to be gassed. They made them strip. They put them inside, and they locked the door. He was standing next to another fellow, and the fellow said to him, do you think Hashem can save us even now? And maybe he remembered that Gemara we just looked at. He said, just like Mitzrayim, Yeshua is Hashem Keheravayin, Hashem can turn this stuff around on a dime. The door opened, and if I remember rightly, there was an SS captain standing there to apologize. There had been an administrative mistake. It wasn't your barracks that was due for gassing today. It's another barracks. Marched them out, made them redress, and they marched in column back to their barracks where they passed the column of men going to be gassed. Even standing in the gas chambers, even standing there, he never lost faith. Do you think Hashem can save us now? Just like Mitzrayim. We see it more closely when a person is near to death, and you certainly see it when it comes to illness. So for tomorrow night, give this some thought, and we'll go through this a little bit further. Who could you trust? You can only trust Hashem. That's chapter 2. He controls every aspect of our lives, but including when our lives seem nearly over. Even then, Hashem can intervene, and when he does it, you see it most. If you want chizuk, it's when Hashem shows his hand at a time of real illness, when everybody else shrugs and shakes their head. I'll talk to you more about that tomorrow night. Okay. Keep well, keep safe. See you tomorrow.